You want me to open the door and let George Quarles in?
Yeah, let's
let him in.
Yes.
All right, as we promised, football. It's football.
Football.
You know what we like? We like football.
We love football.
You know who likes football more than me and you?
Somebody that coaches football for their job.
Hold on, I'm rocking out. Just a second.
Yeah.
Yes, someone who definitely job is dependent on coaching football.
Yes. You really love that wah-wah pedal.
I don't know why. It's so bad. It's
so really bad. It's
Listen,
really bad.
You have a job in the off season to find new bump music. That's your job. I've had the same bump music for I don't know. I've been podcasting 5 years now, give or take. So
yes, there are some off-season projects that I will be undertaking, and we will make this sound like a real show.
Okay, now let's stop talking about.
We're gonna Pinocchio it. We're gonna make it a real boy.
Now let's talk to the head football coach at ETSU, George Quarles, and we're going to talk to him back-to-back days. We're going to talk to him about some staffing, some new changes, new coaches, just the way it is in coaching world, especially football. So many coaches, there's turnovers, so we'll talk about that. But we're going to talk about recruiting day, right? That's the biggest thing. Today is Wednesday, and we know what all happened in December. We covered that. But today, new players, new faces, new names. Like to start there. And if nothing else, I'm just going to go in the order that they signed. And just go down that route because at 8:36 the first one came in, and from a town that we're familiar with, and especially when you play on the defensive side of the ball, whether it's a DN, outside linebacker, inside linebacker, Buck fans are very partial to the Ohio kids, and we got one from Cincinnati, Ohio, and Blake Howard.
Yeah, Blake Howard. Not surprised he was the first one. He was here last weekend, and you could tell how excited he was. He's a probably 6'2", 215 kid that plays with a motor. If you watch him on Huddle, you can go watch him, check him out, check out his highlights. Bends well, is a good pass rusher. Pass rushing and getting some length, I think, was one of our big needs going into this recruiting season. And we tried to get some guys that can get to the quarterback. And if you watch Blake on film, he does a great job of doing that. Now, like I said, and he's a young guy. We got a couple of these guys that are young. When I say young, they don't turn 18 till probably when they get here in camp. So you just think those guys are going to grow and develop even more. And, Blake, his dad played at Purdue, and you can tell Dad's a big guy. So I think Blake's going to grow a little bit more. But he's a guy we're excited about. And like you said, from Cincinnati, and Cincinnati was good to us, at this signing period.
Well, and one thing I like is he's already coming in at 225, and you're talking about he's not even 18 yet.
Right.
So clearly a guy that can, length maybe gets into more taller. That's great, but 30, 40 pounds, and certainly if you're projecting him as a defensive end, stand-up end, whatever he's going to play for you, certainly adding just a few extra pounds will help.
Absolutely, and he played a good program at Princeton High School up in that Cincinnati area, and like you said, I just think tons of upside. He has not scratched the surface. You can tell he's not shaven yet. Those sort of things. So I just think he's a guy that's going to mature, going to get bigger, stronger, and like I said, he does some things naturally. As far as bending, he can get under blocks, rushing the passer that we need. Last year, we didn't produce a lot of sacks from just our normal pass rush. We got it from bringing pressure. You want to be able to get some of those without having to bring everybody and putting those guys in the back end and in peril.
Let's go to the second guy, 857 from Macaulay, right there in Chattanooga, the private school, Andre Delanois.
Delanois.
Ooh, I got to put a little Delanois.
Yeah. Dre Delanois.
See, that's even better. Dre Delanois.
Yes. From Canada. He's Canadian. He's from Montreal area, but played the last 2 years at Macaulay. And, that's 2 years in a row we've gotten Canadian players from Macaulay. And, Xavier Giardets, I'm learning a little French. Mm-hmm. I'm having to learn that. And but Dre, great get. He's 6'1", 215 or so, very physical. He's an outside backer, whether he's field or boundary, another guy that you think could play quite a few places. And like I said, who knows? He may end up, playing inside sometime. But just a good football player, very physical. When he walks in the room, we don't have many that look like him. He's just one of those good-looking guys, and he's, just very good kid, hard worker. Had some offers. I think he had some MAC stuff early going on, and didn't go there, and came on his visit and loved it and committed on the visit.
I like the athleticism because he played wide receiver,
yes,
and could make plays offensively, and then certainly he jumped off the tape when you look at the defensive highlights.
Absolutely, and physical, and like I said, that's what obviously Coach Taylor loves, those guys that can tackle and they'll hit, and he's a pretty good receiver too. We didn't recruit him that way, and I don't see that happening, but you like guys with some versatility that can play different places, and I think Dre, definitely going to be a defensive player for us, but I think he could play in several different spots.
I traditionally, the farther you are away from the ball, the easier it is to play earlier because you don't have to spend that much time in the weight room. That's been changing with linebackers a lot, and I know for you it's kind of been out of necessity at times.
Sure.
Where you have to play a guy that's 6'2", but he's 215. You'd like to have that guy be 235. Do you see some young guys here that, are physically at a position where you say, this is good enough for us to get you on the football field early?
No question. And I think, like I said, he's got to come do it, but Dre's one of those guys. Yeah. Ray Coney that we signed in that first period, I think they're very similar type players. They're very physical. They run well. They're mature. And, sometimes you're waiting on guys to, put on 10 pounds or so. I don't think you're going to have to wait on these quite as long. And, clearly there's an adjustment period, but I don't think it's going to be because, hey, he needs to get bigger or stronger.
Mm-hmm. You talk about learning a little bit of French. You're recruiting French-Canadian players. You're also hitting up Louisiana. And, Tory Lambert, the numbers in the playoffs for him made me say Sacre Bleu. 1,000 yards and 12 TDs just in the postseason. How did you identify him as a player that would be an option for ETSU, and where ETSU is an option for him?
Sure. We recruited Brendan LeBlanc,
yes,
that we signed in the first signing period, and they were teammates. And, we got word that, another school had dropped Tory. And that he was out there. Coach Downs actually had kind of come in contact somehow with his father, and so we hit him up and offered him and got him up here for a visit. He commits, on the visit, and and that's a spot we want to use, obviously. And we've got some good players there. We brought in another one in that first a midterm guy that's here on campus, Zach Borish. But I just don't think you can have too many good running backs. And that was not a spot necessarily we were looking at, but he was one of those too good to turn down kind of guys. And, and he's one that's really good football down there. There's all kinds of Power 5 guys in that New Orleans area and that he's playing against. And you watch his tape, he's pretty good. So, and I don't want to put undue pressure on him. He's still got to come in here and do it. And, But like I said, he's a good-looking player, sharp kid, good student, all the things you're looking for.
I feel like in the transfer portal world, so much of the talk of recruiting pipelines to certain metros has kind of been put on the back burner. Some places love to have a pipeline into Tampa. ETSU has one into Cincinnati. Can New Orleans be a place that you can go now and build some relationships and get some guys?
Sure. And Darryl Day obviously had connections down there, and since Darryl has, gotten out, but I do think once you get a relationship with those coaches a little bit, and Brendan LeBlanc's dad is the offense coordinator at Brother Martin, I just think it helps. And if they can come up here and have a good experience, there you go. Other guys will want to come, because some of those guys, they want to leave New Orleans, as much as we're all trying to go to New Orleans possibly. I think some of them are trying to get out. And, I just think they enjoyed the mountains, enjoyed just a different scenery, and then at the end of the day, those guys, it's all about, can I play? Can I get on the field? And hopefully they can.
Well, another area ETSU clearly was trying to address secondary. You got 2 in the early signing period, the transfer from Ohio. Jamie Collier. Then you got the freshman DB coming in, Robert McNeil out of Bowden, Georgia. Added 2 more. One of them highly recruited, Khalil Anderson, that starred at Pittsburgh. If you believe in the star system and all that, he was a 4-star out of Atlanta, 5'10", 185. And then just recently from Somerville, South Carolina. I know you've made a couple trips down there to see him because he's a basketball guy too, which I like. 6'2", 165, and Mike Jenkins.
Yeah, Khalil. Khalil's on campus right now working out with us, and you can see why he was highly recruited out of high school, and left Pitt. Like I said, great kid, hard worker, moves extremely well. Got some length. So he's not a short guy, and I don't know what it has him listed as, but he's a tall 5'10", 5'11", if that makes sense. He's long-armed. Like I said, he just moves well. And then I think kind of a diamond in the rough, Mike Jenkins. Watched him play ball, basketball, and you can just tell how athletic he is. Another one, he's 6'2", played in the Shrine Bowl, which is their, state big all-star game, North Carolina versus South Carolina. He played on it, and he's another one. He won't turn 18 until I think it's August 29th or something like that. So later on, he'll be in school before he turns 18. Super competitive. Watched him in the warm-up line, just dunking it however you wanted to. And, he plays on a really good basketball team as well. And like I said, extremely athletic, very competitive, great mom and dad. So like I said, it's excited about him. He's one of those guys you want in your program, and we got to be better back there. That's a spot last year, where we obviously took some losses. You lose Elijah Huzzy, we lose Mike Price, so you're a little thinner back there. So it was important for us to address that.
In the last 2 years, they've lost, really 5 starters, because if you talk about the nickelback from a couple years ago, and Karan DeLentz and Tyree Robinson, all 5 from 2 years ago, they're on that championship team,
Sure.
all gone. So there's just a lot of new names, new faces.
Yeah.
Defensive line, I want to touch on this, and we'll flip to the O-line, and then maybe a couple more Cincinnati kids we'll get to. But Jalen George was a kid that signed last year, but enrolled right now working defensive lineman, expected to be a lot of help there. That's another, beside cornerback, maybe D-line, inside linebacker, on the defensive side, the 3 biggest areas.
Sure. Jalen George, he's on campus right now, working extremely hard. He's up to right at 260 right now. I think when we signed him a year ago, I think he was 235 or so. So he's matured quite a bit physically. 6'1", hard worker, very competitive. When we're doing our run-in out there, he's one of those guys that he wants to be first in everything we're doing, which I love. You can tell he's a little bit of a natural leader. He played on a state championship team at Collins Hill. He's used to winning, which obviously we want guys in our program that like to win and know how to win. And so, like I said, he's going to be a great addition.
Let's talk about, before we get, I guess, the offensive line, because we got a couple defensive guys still to talk about. Talk about the last 2 signees, both Cincinnati, from same high school.
Yeah, Ike McConnell and Rick Woolens. Ike, extremely athletic, very versatile guy. He's a 6'3", 210 kid that I think could play lots of different places. He played offense, defense, all over the field at Withrow High School in Cincinnati. And like I said, I just think what sticks out most about him is his versatility. He rushes the passer. He's got the length that we're trying to get in our program. And like I said, just really excited about him. And then his teammate, Rick Woolens, he's a 6'1", 250 kid. Had some stuff early on athletically, but, another guy that probably be more of an inside guy, but, very destructive, I guess. He's one of those guys that, he is disruptive. He, moves the offensive line back, makes some plays, and I just think he'll be a good addition. Another guy that's used to winning. It's come from a good program. So like I said, it was a good day for ETSU, I think, in that recruiting. And sometimes recruiting, you don't know about your signing class until a few years down the road. And, but we're at the point right now, at the few spots, we need guys that can come in and play. and hopefully some of these will be able to come in here and play, and you don't have to redshirt them.
And the last one, I guess, when you talk about flipping to the offensive line, and a kid that actually I think signed early but didn't announce until today, the February sign-up period from Duluth, Georgia, and that's Maida Jones.
Yeah, Maida Jones, a guy that we were really surprised that he was available. He's 6'1", 290. You watch his tape, he's a little bit of that, road grader type, good run blocker. I think will just continue to get better. He's probably a guard center. I don't think he has quite the length that you'd want outside, but inside he's a very physical guy, very athletic. Like I said, I was surprised that he was available.
And he wrestled too, right?
He wrestles,
yeah. The leverage factor, I think.
Absolutely. And the competitive part. Guys that wrestle, they're – it's hard. You got to compete at that. You can't hide during that, and that's one of those things. You just want guys that are really competitive in your program.
Yeah, I mean, you have somebody that used to spar with an MMA women's champion in your running backs room now with
How about
Boris.
that?
So,
yeah,
you got some real competitors in there, and you say, "We're surprised this guy's available." This guy was too good to pass up. I hear that a lot. It kind of sounds like an NFL draft, right? It's like
sure.
We're really surprised this guy's way higher on our board. Teams at higher levels are starting to recruit directly out of the transfer portal now instead of using it to just fill holes. Do you think that's opened some doors for ETSU to get on some high school kids that maybe 5-6 years ago weren't available to us?
Yeah, I don't think there's any question. Like last year we were able to sign like Amir Dindy, and he's one that I think he had Ole Miss early on, had Utah, and had some stuff, and it kind of dried up because just what you're saying, big schools, they're not recruiting high schools like they used to. They're taking them out of the portal, and you hope there's a little bit of a trickle-down effect to schools like us, where those guys will fall to us. And I do think there's fewer spots available for those bigger schools, and there's a few guys on here that, like Tory Lambert, he had some bigger stuff. Dre Delanois had some stuff. Obviously, we talked about Khalil, who transferred.
And Ray was Coney was another.
Yeah,
guy,
Ray
right?
Coney's another one. Yeah, so like I said, we still got to get them here. They got to be productive, all those things, and then at some point, we're going to have to get in the NIL game, a little bit, because teams in our conference are starting to do that a little bit, and at the end of the day, it doesn't sound like much, but you give a kid $1,000 that they can spend, for their own whatever, that can make the difference, and you just giving yourself that chance to be competitive in recruiting.
Let's talk about, done with this class. Obviously, things change because when you go through spring ball, there's another war of attrition. There always is.
Sure.
Where the guys thought they're going to have a chance to get up the depth chart, where they don't. Sometimes it's as simple as academics. We hope not, but it's just the reality of it, especially when you get, 100-plus guys, right?
Yep.
It's just the reality. That being said, what are a couple of areas, if you had your druthers, that you would still give an opportunity in the spring to maybe look at positions to bring in?
No doubt, and I wrote them down here for you. It's going to be.
Knew it was coming, huh?
Yeah. Well, because we're sitting there talking about it too. I still think we got to find a linebacker or two. Losing guy to the portal last year, and we got another one who's going to probably have some surgery this spring. So you're looking at 2 scholarship linebackers to go through spring ball right now. So we'll probably take 1 or 2 in the spring, out of that spring portal period, just to get an older guy or 2 that's played. And then obviously O-line, we got to get some length outside and just a little bit more depth for sure. And then we're still going to hunt a quarterback. I just think even though Tyler Rydell's back, he came back to us, which we're thrilled and excited about, and he knows all this too. And you got he and Baron Mayer, 2 scholarship guys, and we just need more competition there, whether it's a third guy, and we might even take 2. I just think it's just such a quarterback game right now, and you look at the Super Bowl, you got 2 guys that played really well at quarterback. It's hard to beat Mahomes and Hurts, and even the guys that were playing in the championship games, who was it? Purdy, who had played really well for the 49ers, and then Joe Burrow, of course. So such a quarterback game. I just think we got to be a little bit better there.
On some level, it almost kind of seemed like Tyler would be excited to have another quarterback come in too, just to have somebody to compete against. I mean, if nothing else, that's a reason to continue to want to recruit that position.
Yeah, no doubt. And Tyler is. Tyler's not afraid of the competition. I
He should
think
be used to it by now.
Yeah, he just and he'll tell you. He said, Coach, they've been trying to replace me ever since I've been here. And you appreciate that. And like I said, I appreciate his toughness, his competitiveness. I can't say that.
I'm gonna let you say that.
Yeah, exactly. And then just the fact that he's honest, with us, all those things. And like I said, I just think it's a position, whether it's him, whether it's Barron, or whether it's whoever, we got to be better at that spot. It's just such a game where you got to be good at that position.
Well, like a lot of things you said, because I always am leery of a coach. It's like when you talk to him Sunday, we got every no surprise. We got everybody we wanted, nothing wrong. And I want to look at him and go, well, I think you're probably recruiting the wrong guys.
Yeah.
Because, Alabama misses on people,
Sure.
right? North Dakota State probably missed on a few people.
Yes.
And things get flipped, and you picked up maybe a couple you weren't expecting. You probably had some you were expecting to go, but that's sort of the way of the world. But I'm always leery when, and you've already kind of addressed that, so I'm not going to make it again, but yeah, you didn't get maybe everybody was on the target list, but you also got a couple you weren't expecting to
Right.
get on the target list, and that's sort of the game it's played. And now your job, once and we got I think 5 guys here in the spring, rest will come in the fall or summer, whatever that's
Right.
going to be, is to try to get them acclimated and get them
Sure.
all to mesh together, right?
Yeah, and we, like I said, there could be another one that we take from a high school kid. We're still waiting on a couple of guys.
Some of the best
that I don't
players
think
in
are gonna
ETSU
sign.
football history were not signed on signing day.
They
It was
signed
about
late.
That's
Sure.
exactly right.
And like you said, we got some of those phone calls that, hey, Coach, I'm not coming. And it's aggravating because you put a lot of time and effort into trying to get those guys to come here, and you develop relationships. And then when they say, hey, I'm going to whatever school, it is a little disheartening. But it's recruiting, and like I said, it's just part of it. But like I said, I'm proud of the ones we got. I'm excited about the ones that decided to be Bucks. And, like you said, just getting everybody to get going on the same page, same direction, getting everybody bought in. That's how we're going to be successful, and that's how we'll get this thing turned around.
Well, we've talked a lot of stuff today. Men's basketball, big win. We've talked women's basketball, Southern Conference, a little bit on the commissioner stepping down. I got to pause for this. Dr. Neve Brown?
Yes. We haven't talked about awful over-wah-wah'd guitar solos at all, though.
No, and nor will I.
I feel like that's where we could just get into a long, winding conversation thread about the Grateful Dead.
That we would get into that, or I would listen to you get into that?
I don't know. I don't know.
I'm just making sure. All right.
Probably start out with Love Light into Casey Jones into Dark Star and then the moon came out and it was like Jerry willed it.
I hope you know what he's talking about. Of course, I'm pointing. Nobody can see. George Quarles, we promised he would come back tomorrow, which is today, on Thursday, when we record today's podcast about staff changes. Again, we're going to have Will Huzzy on Monday. Will was mad at me. He came and told me at the basketball game that he recruited Rydell heavily to come back with him and be a part of the team. And then Rydell is the first to tell everybody that Huzzy is back, and he wasn't able to tell everybody himself, and that I gave him the platform to do it. Needless to say, he's mad at me. So I'm going to have him on Monday, so Will Huzzy can give the full story.
So don't tell everybody that Will's back? Okay.
Tyler's already told everybody.
Okay.
So you just you just know that.
And you've already told half the story, so now now he's going to be twice as mad.
No, I know, because it is an interesting story, I think. At least what he was telling me yesterday. And again, you know how these young men are, what all their thought process going to.
No, I don't.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
Try to.
Let me tell you what else I'm not sure you know what these adults are going through, your coaches, because a lot of staff changes. But again, at our level, this isn't anything
Sure.
that is new to FCS football and major basketball. I mean, these things happen. So let's start with coaches that were here that are not, and kind of an update. You know, what if you know what they're doing,
Sure.
and then we'll jump into okay. Well, that means we need new faces. Who are they?
Yeah, well, the ones that are gone.
We had 2 retire, right?
Yes, Gary Downs and Daryl Day. You know, they both. You know, Gary is technically not retired, but he's not coaching. He's working for a recruiting service.
And just to backtrack, we talked about this when I thought we talked about this. Maybe we didn't. But, you know, obviously he's got the one son. It's about to be a first-round draft pick. The younger son is going to be at Alabama. He's got a daughter that plays college volleyball.
No, she's graduated. She's
graduated.
starting med school.
Oh, my goodness. Well, that's why.
Yeah, and
yeah.
you know, and Gary, what he did, you know, basically commuting for 8 years from Atlanta to ETSU. Of course, he had an apartment up here, but his family was there, and I mean, he gave everything he had to ETSU, and he just felt like it was time, and I totally agree. You know, I've been commuting for a year now, and I don't know how you do it for 8, and not be around your kids.
And you have half the drive he had, right?
Had half the drive and, you know, half the kids. You know, I only got 2 kids. I get 2/3 of the kids, I guess. And but I'm excited for Coach. Like I said, he's going to get to go watch his boys play. One in the NFL, one at Alabama. You know, it's just he needs to go do this, and you know, I'm happy for him. He gave everything he had to ETSU.
And then Daryl Day really came out of retirement.
Yes.
And you knew that was the deal. He's coming out. He was going to do a year. He left you a couple of good Louisiana recruits on the way out the door. Now he's back into retirement and fishing.
Yeah. Daryl was retired, and he kind of caught us in a pinch, you know, got us out of a pinch, I guess. We had a coach leave last March, I believe, during spring practice. And Coach Day said, yeah, I can go do that. And he and Kathy moved up here, and you know, now they're moving to the Hilton Head area. So I'm happy for him too. You know, Daryl's good as they get. He's funny. He's entertaining. All those things. And obviously, you mentioned it. Brought us 2 really good players, I think, from Louisiana on his way out.
And then Joe Horn, maybe the smartest man alive. Is that what we're going with?
That's what we think. Yeah, he and Duke both. They're getting out of coaching, both of them. And Joe, you know, was kind of surprised. I knew about Drew's deal for a little while, but Joe he came in one day last week and said, Coach, I'm getting out. And one of his old, I think a high school teammate, high school friend, has asked him to go to work for him, you know, making substantially more money than he was making. You know, got the golf course membership, all that stuff. And like I said, Joe did a great job. You know, our receivers played great last year, and you know, we'll miss all those. And Drew's getting out too. Drew's going to Georgia, going to work for, I'm not sure, it's fundraising, kind of entertainment type stuff. And, you know, to be closer to his fiance and, you know, those sort of things. So, but, you know, that's opportunities for other guys, for sure.
All right, and Adam Neugebauer had left before that, so you lose offense coordinator. All right, that being said, we talked about who left. We need new faces coming in. Who are those guys? Yeah,
well, I'll just go with in order that they've kind of been hired, and they'll be starting next week, most of them. So Gus Ragland will be coaching our tight ends. Price Partrick has moved from tight ends back to quarterbacks. He was at quarterbacks I guess before I got here, and so he's moved back over there, and he'll actually be our pass game coordinator. Price will handle that. Gus Ragland will coach the tight ends. Gus comes to us most recently from Notre Dame. He's a Cincinnati native, 3-year starter at quarterback for Miami of Ohio, engineering major, obviously a really bright guy, was a GA and an analyst at Notre Dame, I think, for 4 years. And, you know, he's sharp guy. I think he'll bring a lot to our program.
Any thought process because he's from Cincinnati?
Jay immediately lit up the moment you said Cincinnati.
That's let's see, 5 and signing day. You know, it's counting the 4 guys we signed from up there, and then bringing in Gus. You know, that's Cincinnati's been good to us.
If I didn't know any better, I would think Sandos is just like made of Skyline chili. As excited as he is about Cincinnati.
I mean, you give me spaghetti noodles and chili. I mean, you had me and cheese. I don't know what you don't like out of that.
So, but yeah, but we're excited about Gus. Like I said, just kind of a chance meeting. Got to talk to him at the convention. We really hit it off and just got to talking and talked some more. Did Zoom. Obviously, really sharp. Been around good football at Notre Dame. Brings some different ideas, which I value. He's younger. I think he's 28 years old, 27. Which I love the energy the younger guys bring.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say, kind of met him at the coaches convention and you got to talking. I think everybody looks at coaching from the outside and says it's all about who you know. It's all about network. I have these relationships with all these guys for years and years and years. I don't know that it's necessarily that way. How many coaches have you hired to staffs that you just kind of met through happenstance over the years?
Yeah, well, when we get to one of these other ones, it'll be a happenstance, that really was. And, it happens. That's the best thing to me about the convention. I'm not a huge fan of the convention, but it is good to meet some more people and a lot of younger guys. At our level, you do have quite a bit of turnover. As great as ETSU is, for some guys, it's just not a destination spot. This is a stop on the way to, trying to get to those Power 5 schools or whatever the case might be. And so you get a young one that you think, hey, this guy, he's got a chance, to be there. And these guys may not be here for a while, but I think right now, they're what we need, young guys. And so we're excited about that, and sometimes it's harder to hire the older guys. Right. Just your resources aren't quite there sometimes to hire older staff members.
Was it a deliberate choice to hire a lot of younger coaches, or did it just kind of work out that way?
It kind of worked out that way. Me personally, I like it. I told Coach Taylor, I said, you and I got enough age for most of the staff here. Why do we need more old guys? We can handle that part of it ourselves, and like I said, I just think getting younger guys in here, I think sometimes they relate a little bit better. They're closer in age. They understand what some of these younger guys are going through. They've all played most of them at a pretty high level, so they understand what these guys are up against.
So, well, you're going to get into more stories. Who's next on the list?
Jay Guillermo.
Oh, yeah. Okay, let's go. Get into this one because this is not one.
Yeah, Jay and I have known each other a while, sure. Yeah, Jay played for me at Maryville. He played for Maryville High School his junior year and senior year. His mom and stepdad moved to Maryville because of church. Jay's stepdad was the music minister at First Baptist Church in Maryville. And Jay obviously was a great player there. He's an Under Armour All-American. Signed with Clemson, played there for 4 years, actually 5, I think, and was the captain on their national championship team in 16 with Deshaun Watson, that team. Obviously a really good player, went to Georgia State for 2 years as a GA, coached at Western Carolina, I think in 2021. Fall of 21, he was at Carson Newman, and then went to Virginia this past year as a graduate assistant. So, he's one of those lifers, loves the game. Looks like an O-lineman. Even though he's cut. He played at 305. I think he said he's weighing about 260 right now, but. Just loves it. I think he'll bring that energy, that enthusiasm that group needs. Obviously, he's been there, done it. He knows what those guys are experiencing, what's going to give them trouble, those sort of things. And, really excited about getting him here.
I'd say the two big things at selling point, when you look at the line and ask them how many national championships they won, right?
Absolutely.
You got that going. And then number two, I think anytime you look at a guy that played in meaningful games, I think it was a 4-year starter at some point, captain, championship, Dabo Swinney, culture, all that good fun stuff. And then young, I think all of that kind of plays into it, because it's not one of those where he can say, I won the 1976 whatever, right?
Sure.
He's talking 2016, and those guys probably
they know who that is.
Yeah, they know when that is or who that is. So.
Well, and all these things, the one thing I think they have in common, most good people, and that's important to me, that we get good guys in here that are gonna be good role models, good influencers of our guys, and and they're fun to be around. Next we'll go Kirk Garner. Kirk Garner will be our running backs coach. Kirk comes to us most recently from Vanderbilt, and he was at Vanderbilt for 3 years as an analyst and quality control guy, where he worked with the running backs. And kind of another chance meeting, Norval McKenzie was the running backs coach at Vanderbilt. And I hit him up, say, hey, we're looking for a young running backs coach or a running backs coach. Do you know of anybody? And he called me back immediately, and just says, hey, this guy is sharp. He played at University of Virginia, and I think even cooler than that, he grew up in the DMV area, grew up in D.C., bused 45 minutes each way to go to Good Counsel High School, because he knew he needed a better education, that sort of thing, wanted to play big-time football. So he played at Good Counsel, signed with Virginia, played corner there, and then tore his ACL his senior year, became a student coach, graduated from Virginia, obviously a really good education, graduated, stayed on his GA, got his master's there, where he worked with secondary some, worked with the inside receivers some, and then became running backs after he went to Vandy. So I just think he's, like I said, interviewing him, sharp guy, speaks extremely well. You can just see and feel the energy when he's talking to you. And like I said, so I'm excited about it. When I talked to him, he said, hey, you got the job. We'd love to get you here. I'm there, and I said, we talked about, temporary housing, that stuff. He said, well, Coach, do I have an office? I was like, yes. He said, that's all I need. Just give me an office, a pillow and a blanket, and I'll be good. So, but he's a, great guy. And like I said, I think he'll be good for that room.
The thing that jumped out to me was he's got an undergraduate degree in anthropology.
Yeah, I asked him about that, and I told him, well, I've got a political science degree, and that I don't use. And I said, what are you going to do with an anthropology degree? And he said, coach. And so,
it's really fun to have. It's interesting because you went from Gary to basically the total opposite of Gary, right? Gary was kind of a father figure for that room, and now you got somebody that's, maybe a little bit more of a brother figure,
sure,
for a big brother figure for these guys. What do you hope that relationship turns into for Kirk, particularly as he, starts as a running backs coach, a position coach in earnest in his career?
And, talking to him, that was one of the first things that he brought up, was that the importance of those relationships in the room, whether it's brother figure, father figure, whatever, that mentor role that group always needs. Your running backs coach, it can be a tough room to coach. There's one football, whole bunch of running backs. They all want 30 carries a game. Usually that doesn't happen that way, but in that room, there's a bunch of talent. There is. So how do you manage that? And I think that's one thing that Kirk will do really well. Like I said, when y'all talk to him, I think you'll feel his energy and his excitement, about getting to do what he loves doing.
So then the last one is an oldie but a goodie. He's
oldie
back,
but
right?
a goodie, yes sir.
Even though he's not old.
Yeah, he's not very old either, and I'm not sure how old he is. But Dallas Dickey comes back to us. He was a QC here for a while. Played at Carrollton High School down in Georgia, played at West Georgia for his dad, Darrell Dickey. Came here, and he was here when I got here, and he was one of those guys that you couldn't get here earlier than Dallas, and you couldn't leave later than Dallas. He's one of those, he loves to work. And then last spring, he got a chance to go be the receivers coach at UT Martin. Did a great job there. I think he had an All-American receiver there that, broke all kinds of records and stuff. And like I said, recruited well, and I called Coach Simpson out there, and he had nothing but great things to say about Dallas. So that was kind of an easier hire. We talked to some other guys, but didn't take us long to realize, hey, Dallas is who we want here. And he understands ETSU, loves ETSU. He's excited about getting back here.
He was the hand signal guru.
That's right. He's still, and we'll probably have some of those. There'll be some of them are different, obviously, but he'll be able to do some of that too.
That was the running joke I had with him. I would go in there and say, hey, I'd have Austin Herring text me a play, even when he was gone, and I'd go in there and ask that, and then Dow started doing his little hand signals. So the hand signal guy.
He's great.
He had more skills than that, but still, I always enjoyed that. How do you remember all that? I think that's almost a different skill set altogether. Whoever's in charge of hand signals.
It's a language. I mean, it's really like learning a foreign language. Learning all those signals and stuff. And unfortunately, I still remember some of them. and you get quite a few of these languages that go through your head, whether it's at Maryville or Furman or last year, this year. You got you get them all mixed up. And but Dallas, I think he's going to be great for us. Like I said, he is pumped up. Like I said, it didn't take him too long to accept. He's ready to go, and like I said, can't wait to get him here.
And I asked you about this yesterday on Sportsline on the Monster, but with all these new offensive coaches, it's a chance to kind of reevaluate things that worked, things that didn't on the offensive side of the ball in particular, and you want your team to work more from between the hashes out a little bit.
Yeah, and I just think it's more of an inside-out approach. Right. Last year I think we were just so outside in. We tried to throw it to run it rather than let's run it to throw it. Kind of just a little bit different, way of looking at things. And, and the receivers, they're worried, hey, we're not going to throw it. And I'm like, guys, that's not at all what I'm saying. Right. We just want to make sure that we are really good at, running the football. And that's what we want to base everything around. And then we'll do the RPOs. We'll do the now screens. We'll do the boots or the, play actions, whatever it takes. But everything's got to start with that run game. And I just think that's the difference, But you may look at us and you're not going to, it's not going to look drastically different. We're not going to line up in different formations necessarily. But, I just think it's just a different approach to how we, look at how we're going to attack each game.
In ETSU, for the most part, when they've been successful, there have been multiple running backs. There's never really been the bell cow. When I look at Furman, for the most part, unless you go in the Chris Ivory days back in yesteryear,
sure.
For the most part, 2-3 backs are getting that, and that's again a room that is, in a good way, is kind of crowded on different guys that if they're kind of hitting or getting some carries early, just ride the hot hand. Yeah,
you really going into this spring right now, you don't know who your number one guy is. You would think, just based on experience, it could be Bryson Irby. It could also be Amir Dindy. It could be Trey Foster. It could be Zach Borish. Or it could be somebody we bring in, Tory Lambert. And that's a great problem to have, and you're exactly right. And I talked to those guys and said, just remind them, I was like, guys, there were a couple games last year, your hamstrings hurting, your knees hurting. We didn't have enough guys to, Jacob Saylor's down at Citadel. Really, we had one back, plus a Amir Dindy who had never played in a game before. So that's not a good place to be in. I just don't think you can have too many of those guys.
The second deepest, maybe the deepest first is wide receiver.
Sure.
It's just with Huzzy coming back.
Yep.
There's just a lot of names, a lot of reps. You get both tight ends back. Obviously, Juwan Martin, the fullback's back. Offensive line will be the next thing. You've already talked about that in recruiting, so I don't really want to dive too much into that. But offensively, just curious. Being a little bit of been around the game. I was going to say old, but I caught myself. But being around the game, I think what I'm excited about with the thing that's going on is situational awareness. Do you need to slow things down?
Right.
Do you need to pick up tempo?
Sure.
Do we need to make sure we get a few extra snaps, let the defense rest?
So absolutely.
That's the one thing that excites me about kind of and I don't know how the official setup's going to be.
Right.
Is it a coordinator by committee? Is it you're game planning but somebody else is calling, or they're game planning and you're calling?
Right.
I don't know if you want to get into that today.
Sure.
Or even
Yeah, and we have talked about it a little bit. Like I said, Price will be the pass game coordinator. When I'm not in the room, he'll be the one that's kind of running the show in there. But it's a room where all ideas are welcome. We've been, talking lots the last few weeks about getting this thing set up, and and Price has never called him, I don't think, in a game, not full time. He's called some plays for sure. I've done it, but nobody else will have called plays. So you're right about situational awareness. The tempo thing, that's always a topic of discussion. Do you want to run tempo or do you want to slow it down? And I think you want to do both. I mean, I really do. I just think you want to mix it up. You don't want to be fast all the time. Then your defense can be back out there. I just think you want to protect your team. Whatever is going to, and there's nothing worse than a dead play, where you just wasted it down. We want to make sure we got chances to, we can't waste them. If we're getting 65, 70 plays, we'd like all of them to have a chance to be successful, not just, hey, we went fast and, threw it away, nothing, that sort of thing. So that's kind of what we're thinking offensively. And, like I said, I have a lot of confidence in Price. Price is very, very bright. He's been around the game for a while. He's learned from some great ones, whether it was, Randy Sanders or Watson Brown or Marcus Satterfield. These are good offensive minds that he has learned under. And he understands the run game, bringing in somebody like Jay Garamo, another guy who, like you said, he's been on national championship teams. He understands what it takes to win. Gus Ragland, he's been at Notre Dame, and when they were good, he was under Brian Kelly for a while. He's been with Tommy Reese, so these guys, like I said, they know some ball, they're for sure. And, so it's been fun to kind of put things together, and figure out, and the most important thing in all this is figuring out what we're good at. We don't need to force a system on our team, and we need to figure out, what you get. Hey, we want to be a wide zone team. Well, if we can't run wide zone, why would we keep doing it? We got to figure out what we're good at and really build off of that.
The other thing I'm excited about is something called a huddle. We love a huddle, muddle huddle, whatever.
Muddle huddle, that's right.
You can huddle, you can muddle huddle.
Yep.
If you need, you got a good matchup and you want to go, you got the ability to do that. So we talked about a little bit of everything. Coaches that are back on the offensive side, you mentioned Price is back, doing the quarterback, Coach Patrick. On the defensive side, still Dwight Evans, right? Still Chris Grimes, Dylan Llewellyn, and of course Billy, coordinator, have his hands in
and but they have shifted around a little bit. Dwight has been coaching the Rams, which is the boundary outside backers, and he's going to D-line. Dylan Llewellyn, who's at the field outside backers, the Bandits, he's going to inside backers. Chris Grimes will still be in the secondary, and then Billy is going to be a kind of a floater. He'll move around to different positions, and then we'll hire another outside backers coach, and that should be coming anytime here. And then role-wise, Dylan Llewellyn is going to take over as special teams coordinator. And that's something that, in a lot of ways, he had the role last year. He's got the title now, and Dylan's done a great job.
Was he in charge of punt block? That's what I want to know.
Well, Dwight Evans was in charge of punt block.
Can I suggest Dwight Evans still have
he
a
will
little bit
still
of
have, absolutely.
Because the 3 punt blocks in a year is pretty spectacular.
No, it's great.
Okay.
Yeah. We talked speaking of, I think Notre Dame had 7 last year. I was talking to Gus the other night. He said, we had 7 punt blocks. I was like, well, we thought we did good at 3.
Yeah, I agree.
But which we did. But yeah, and within that, you'll have guys that are, serve road. Absolutely.
Sure,
yes. And but somebody has to kind of be in charge of that room. So Dylan will have that.
Okay. Well, only thing, I guess, last question for me. I'll see if Keith's got anything else. The only thing I heard is all ideas are welcome. So I'll be sending my plays calls probably once a week.
You've done that since I've been here.
Nobody's ran one of them. Makes you feel better. Nobody's ran one yet. I want to get one of them in there.
No, we ran a bunch of them last year. That's what we'll tell you.
Yeah. Soft toss that one, didn't you?
Yeah, you sure did. Yeah, that's the game script. The first 10 plays are all Sandos plays.
Yeah.
That's what it is. When you say, all ideas are welcome, that's something that I hear a lot with young coaching staffs in particular, is they kind of expect a collaborative environment. Certainly, I mean, you're looking for everything that you can do to move your offense forward after last year, but Is it kind of is almost a desire to have a more forward-thinking approach to offense that you want all of your position coaches to have input on, what you're doing in specific situations?
Yeah, and and even last year and every year I've ever been, you broke up the role, on your staff. You had this guy, he did the short yardage breakdown. This guy did third and long. This guy did the play action shots, that sort of thing. And I don't see that changing. But when you're actually doing your game plan or your open field stuff, your first 10 plays, all that stuff, I want input, because we all have blind spots. I think I mentioned that yesterday, and none of us are perfect, but I just think ideas are good. It gives everybody some ownership. They're excited about coming in there and working and meeting, and plus they're more locked in. They're more, it's easier for them to teach and relay the game plan, I think, to players when they feel like they're a part of it. And and I think we all kind of think the same way. Last year we had without revealing too much, but there was a difference of opinions a lot, and it wasn't real good. It wasn't real healthy at times. But I just think so far talking to all these guys, I think our room's going to be a lot more fun to work in. I would be shocked if I certainly hope we're a lot better, just a year into it.
Is that different from when you started? I mean, a lot of old school type coaches, or maybe a little bit more because I said so personalities. Is that something that's different from when you got started in coaching to now that rooms have become a lot more collaborative in game plan?
Yeah, I think so. It's kids today, they want to know why.
Absolutely.
You're telling me to run. Well, why? Because I said so. That doesn't go real far anymore. And I think young coaches are a little bit that way too. They want to know why we're doing something, and not in a disrespectful way or anything, but they need to know the why, and I think as coaches that makes you better, because you're having to explain your why to somebody. And sometimes that can be a little, it gets a little tough, but I just think it creates better understanding throughout the room.
I did forget, because Gary was a recruiting coordinator.
Yes.
Is somebody taking that?
Yes, we will. We were not ready to announce that one yet, but yes, we're working on that, and Gary did a great job with that, and and that's something that I don't think anybody wants. That's one of those jobs you're like, recruiting coordinator, oh great, kind of, because it's a lot of busy work, and there's some added stuff that goes along with that, but yeah, we'll have somebody in that role hopefully soon.
All right, Coach, we appreciate it. Talking the last couple of days. Good luck on the outside linebacker coach deal.
Yes, sir.
We're going to try to get some of these guys in here through the next couple